Greetings, salutations, and welcome. So, I have here in my hand a couple of peace dollars, and this started getting me thinking. In the coin collecting world, peace dollars and Morgan dollars are incredibly worn out. Like, no other coin is nearly as worn out as Morgan and peace dollars. Quarters don't wear out like this, nickels, dimes, pennies, none of them wear out quite the way peace dollars and Morgan dollars wear out. And I actually think that this might be an American Southwest issue. Now, I haven't been all over the country, but in the American Southwest, you can find in the back of coin stores, in their dusty, dirty old bins, cull peace dollars. Cull meaning worthless or cheap or trash. Rejects. And you can find Morgan and peace dollars in these reject bins that are worn so smooth you can barely make out what the coin formerly was. And the question is, why did this happen? When I've talked to people who were around in the era of silver, they said that when they got coins of this size, dollar coins, they would put them away. They wouldn't spend them. And if they did spend them, it was mostly taking them to a bank or something of that nature. You didn't really spend these massive dollar-sized coins. But that's anecdotal evidence, and anecdotal evidence can be dismissed to some extent. The other thing is that if these were the most highly circulating coins, again, that doesn't make much sense. A dollar had a lot of value in the past. Your smaller transactions would be done with coins of lower denominations. So that doesn't make much sense. I've heard some people say, well, the good ones were hoarded and the bad ones were sent back out into circulation. I can believe that, but why wouldn't that apply to quarters, dimes, and so on and so forth, who are also quite high in silver content? Some people have said, well, people rubbed down the edges and collected the silver. I mean, possibly, but that's a lot of work for what at the time wasn't very much money. That was far more common on gold coins. There's the whole trick about taking a bunch of gold coins, shaking them about in a bag, and then collecting the gold flakes from the bag. Makes sense with gold, not so much with silver. And then it kind of struck me. I used to hear my dad talk about how back in the 60s he could go to casinos in Las Vegas, and he would receive in change silver dollars. So I have this thought, maybe it's Las Vegas that's causing all this wear and tear on these coins. And I really think I'm onto something here. When we went off the silver standard for our coinage in 1964, and I don't mean silver standard like a governmental policy, but when silver was removed from our coinage in 1964, technically 1965, technically even later if you really want to get pedantic, but 1964 was the last year for silver coinage in the US. When this happened, Las Vegas had over $140 million in silver dollars. So, 140 million silver dollars for all intents and purposes. And their consumption rate of these silver dollars was about $1 million a year. And I'm talking about consumption. They were wearing out $1 million a year in silver coins, silver dollar coins. And so they had to get these brought in from the Fed all the time. All these Morgans and peace dollars. Well, I can't track down how much damage was done by these casinos using them as poker chips, using them in their slot machines. The slot machines actually used to deposit these silver coins. But I was able to track down one very specific number. In 1965, when it was determined that they would no longer be able to get fresh silver dollars, Harris Casino took 1.4 million Morgan dollars and peace dollars and had them sandblasted so that you couldn't tell what the coin was, nearly removing all markings from the coin. The goal was to prevent people from taking them home. The owner-operator of Harris Casino at the time said that Las Vegas has this Wild West charm, and part of that is silver dollars. There's not much that's as entrenched in the American Wild West as silver dollars and gambling. And he wanted them to stay connected, even though we were going away from the silver dollar. And from time to time, you would see Las Vegas trying with their Eisenhower dollars or their gaming tokens and eventually poker chips of all sorts, and more or less the coin has fallen out of fashion. But now in those dusty, dirty old coal bins, you find a relic of Las Vegas's past, and I think that's a little bit of history that deserves to be remembered, to steal a line from someone else. And I really do. I think that this is a piece of information that is severely lacking in the coin community. I can't imagine it's the cause of every single Morgan and Peace dollar being worn out, but I can imagine that it's the bulk of them. 140 million coins taken out of circulation at the end of the era when people realized these things were going to be valuable. This wasn't early on when they were destined to the melting pot. This was right at the end when people started hoarding them. And I have anecdotal stories now of Las Vegas casino employees coming to coin shops with rolls of Morgan and Peace dollars that have been sandblasted or worn smooth. And I think that's where they're coming from. I think they're really coming from the blackjack tables and slot machines of 1930s, 40s, 50s, and 60s Las Vegas. A nice, fun bit of anecdotal evidence, too, of this whole thing is my dad actually went to Reno a few times in the 60s, and he was telling me that even in the mid to late 60s, after 1965, you could still get silver dollars and change. And this was a really, really big deal at the time. He was saying that nowhere else in the country did he see people using silver dollars as currency. So to see them as currency was unusual and memorable. And I think that does chalk up to what the owner of Harris Casino said, that the silver dollar is tied to Las Vegas. And actually, we can even show you that today by the fact that that TV show Pawn Stars does a lot of silver dollar merchandising. They made their own silver coin with the old man on it out of that silver hoard they got. They got signed Morgan and Peace dollars. They do a lot of stuff with silver dollars, and that's not just because silver dollars are cool, but because they are tied to Las Vegas. So if you find yourself with one of these really worn out little coins, don't just go, oh, hey, it's a worn out little coin. Remember, it can be tied to a interesting piece of American history, the glitz and glam of early Vegas. Well, anyway, until next time, dear listener, see you out there. Sorry for butting back in here for one more moment. I wanted to add something to that, so there's a bit of a postscript here. Another example as to why I can tell you for a fact that Morgan and silver dollars didn't circulate as hard as people think they did is the fact that they stopped making them for stretches of time. After the Morgan dollar had its original run, they didn't make a whole bunch of them for years. Not until 1921 when there was a new need for dollars. And then the Peace dollar only ran for a few years after that. And for decades, technically the silver dollar was in circulation, but people weren't using it. They were using paper money. And in fact, actually, there's articles from the time talking about how hard it was for Las Vegas to get silver dollars because banks didn't want to ship them around. So I wanted to add that as a little bit of evidence as to why I think the wear and tear truly is from Vegas and not from circulation. Till next time, see you out there.